So this is the third part of the maamer, and we're going to specifically do the sections 5 and 6. But let's do a quick recap. We started off the maamer with the idea that that on Simchas Torah we dance with the Sefer Torah closed, and we asked the question, why is it that this particular aspect is emphasized? Why is it that every single Jew feels and has this connection with a Sefer Torah and capable of dancing with it? Surely the Torah is a intellectual understanding, and it is, after all, the verse tells us, it's your wisdom and your understanding. So wouldn't it be more appropriate for a festival which relates to the idea of the simcha of joy for Torah, and it being an intellectual endeavor, understanding it, we should somehow dance, we should somehow be involved with it in a way of learning and in a way of making an intellectual differentiation. But what we do find is that, in fact, what we do is we dance with the Torah closed. And the question is, why are we dancing with the clothes? We also hinted at that the idea that since every single person can make a bracha on the Torah, it means that he has every single person, no matter where he is in his understanding, has a connection to the Torah, and therefore that allows him to dance with the Torah, because he can make this bracha. So we started to answer this question, and we brought a medrash. We brought an idea that surely we should be connected with something like just like the medrash says, just like Shavuos is a 50-day differential between Pesach to Shavuos. So also Shmini Atzeres should find Simchas Torah, the dancing Simchas Torah, should be a 50-day differential from the festival of Succos. And to answer that, we brought an analogy. We brought the medrash to bring us an analogy about a king with a daughter, with a number of daughters. Some live far away, some live closer. And then what we said is that the daughters come at a particular, or they all came together on the one day. They joined together with him, and the king said that he wanted to celebrate. He wanted to celebrate on that day with them together. We related that and said that the daughters relate to that expression called daughters of Zion, B'nai Zion, and that refers to the B'nai Israel, the souls of the Jewish people. And that day that they came together reflects the Yom Kippur. We join this idea with the idea that there is an essence which connects all the Jews. That festival that they came together refers to, that the medrash referred to, that refers to the day that they came together. That's Yom Kippur. The day they celebrated is the day of Simchas Torah, and they brought that together. And we said that there has to be a particular reason for it. And the idea was that there is a idea of unity, an idea of oneness in both of these two celebrations. There's the idea that there is the idea of the oneness of Yom Kippur, that's expressed by the Kohen Gadol, and everything that he does is done through the Yom Kippur. We also reference that Rosh Hashona has also got an aspect of oneness as well, because the mitzvah of the day, the mitzvah of the day is shofar, and it's a scriptural decree. And then we emphasize that we have to do this on Shmini Atzeres, and the idea is that there has to be something on Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah which has got to do which has got to do with the specific oneness, with the oneness that's attributed in the day. We talked about that there is the idea of unity, the idea of reflection of unity in the festival of Succos as well, and we talked about the specific characteristic that exists in Succos and in the Daled Minim that expresses the idea that expresses that idea of the oneness. We then went and connected that to a verse of Atem Netzovim Hayom Kulchem, that this is the Torah reading which we read close to Rosh Hashona, post Rosh Hashona. We'll read it, but it emphasizes the idea of call, that Atem Netzovim, that you're all standing as one, you're all standing as one in front of the Eibishter, from the top level of people to the lowest level. That is, everybody's call, everybody's together. On the other hand, right, there is a differentiation. The idea that there is a theme of Achdus. The theme of Achdus is reflected through the whole month of Tishrei via the shofar being oneness, the Yom Kippur, which has got the Kohen Gadol in the Holy of Holies. And we've also got the Succos, and we've got Succos that everybody can be together. We have used that expression, all the Jewish people are worthy of dwelling in the one sukkah, and that theme of oneness is reflected even in the mitzvah of the four kinds. Even though there are four separate kinds, we talk about that this is a specific aspect that brings them together. So we then quickly mentioned, or we also mentioned the idea of the specialness of Yom Kippur, in that the special heightened awareness of a person is reflected in the Yom Kippur, and that tshuva can be done in one moment. And the people made the rapprochement with the Bnei Yisrael with Hashem, and got the second sefer, got the second set of luchas in one moment, literally in one moment, after Hashem had forgiven all the people. This is the luchas, the second set of tablets, was given to them in one moment. The first one needed a preliminary of the 60, preliminary of the preparation of the 49 days between Pesach and Shavuos, and then the 40 days when Moshe Rabbeinu was on Har Sinai. But that brought everybody together. But through tshuva, everybody was drawn together. Everybody was drawn together at a moment of oneness, and that oneness is reflected in the idea of Yom Kippur. We then said that specialness of the oneness, that influence of the oneness, just like the father made the celebration for the daughters on this day of oneness of Simchas Torah, and brought everybody together, that this level of oneness has to permeate, and this level of heightenedness of tshuva has to permeate us, so that we can continue to live this feeling of oneness, not just on the day of Yom Kippur, not just on the days of Sukkot, and not just when we dance around with the Torah covered, because we accept the Torah as oneness without any dimensional difference. Like we can make the bracha with it, and we can do that in one moment, b'shaita chada b'riga chada, all in one moment, and then include everybody that we need to take. We ended off last time when we learned, we ended off with the idea that we need to take that level of oneness and then spread it out and diffuse it in the rest of the year, so that all the days of the rest of the year still have that same feeling of oneness, that one of transcending change. Okay, let's continue with the next section, and then the next section continues, and the Rebbe, through his power of blessing, gives us the capability, that we can continue that. It's not just that we've learnt about it and that we have to take in a separate way that efforts and turn that into truth and turn that into will influence ourselves, but the Rebbe, through his spiritual powers, gives us the capability to be able to do that. Now that we're infused and enthused with this teaching, we can take it forth and do it and move it along for the entire year. And then the Rebbe continues, so therefore, may it be Hashem's will that all the teachings that we've spoken till now, and this capability of bringing the oneness from the specific oneness of the days of Rosh Hashona, Yom Kippur, the days of Succos, and Simchas Torah, that should be realized, that should be able to be fulfilled, b'chol echad, in every single person, b'achas, b'seichel klal Yisrael, amongst all the Israel, amongst all the people of Israel, as we said, the expression, aten notzov and kulchem, everybody together, shetiyeh shana teva mevarechas, and we should be blessed with a good and prosperous new year, but teiv hanira benigel in a real way, the matam asar tvachim, in revealed good, so that we can understand it in this level of existence that we see in our daily lives, and that b'bonei chaya, and that we should be blessed within the famous three lines, three dimensions of b'bonei, of children, b'chaya, in our personal health, umazona, and our food, our sustenance, bakulam, and all those things are vichi in a large manner. And this capability that the Rebbe is giving and is giving to us through his spiritual powers to be able to draw down from God above into our lives. He gives us the blessing. We think that this should relate to both children, health, sustenance in a literal sense, but in a simple physical sense, as well as b'bnei chaya mezoni, as well as those three things mapped into a spiritual plane. That is the idea of bonai, the people that we influence, anybody that we influence for their good, and in their health, in their ideas of spiritual health, and baruchnius, and their sustenance. In other words, how much assets, spiritual asset they have, how much Torah they've learned, and how much mitzvahs they've done. Because in reality, the person's physical assets and physical things derive from the spiritual things that is achieved. And through the divine servants of joyousness, doing it through in a simcha, but tev in a good heart, that you'll be able to achieve this immediately after Simchas Torah, the Aveda of the spiritual service of Biyankov Halach Ladake, the idea that a person needs to move himself into the realm of into the physical realm of daily existence. Even in the things which are all the things which we're allowed to do. Because there is two aspects to this idea of Yaakov halach ladarke, that Yaakov proceeded on his way. This is a verse which is taken within the context when Yaakov left his father-in-law Laban, and after they had a meeting where Laban threatened Yaakov. Nevertheless, they left in peace. There's the idea of Yaakov proceeded on his passage back to his homeland, to his Jewish existence, and there is, so the Rebbe says in the brackets, there is Yaakov halach ladarke, which happens immediately after Yom Kippur. After Yom Kippur, you go back. We have weekdays, but we're totally involved in mitzvahs because we're involved in preparing for Succos. So there's a Yaakov halach ladarke that refers to doing mitzvahs. And as he says, and after the 4 days within the 4 days that we have b'yomim shebein Yom Kippur, Succos, because the 4 days which are between the 4 days which are between Yom Kippur and Succos, and for those 4 days correspond to the 4 letters of God's name, that they are involved in spiritual things and mitzvahs, because we're involved in the mitzvahs of Sukkah. But there's another another aspect of Yankov Halach Ladaka, and that's after Simchas Torah, when Simchas Torah is completed, and you go in to the person's mundane day-to-day activities. But what's needed is Shabachol Yom, but every one of those days, whether they be weekdays, whether the days of Shabbos and Yom Tov, Kel Gam Rosh Hashona and Kippur, even including the next year's Rosh Hashona and Yom Kippur, they need to be totally permeated, absorbed with Kol Inyona, all the things Hein Inyona Klona, Hein Inyona Protem, generic and general or specific aspects that have to have that point to that fundamental point that we've previously discussed. The Ika Pnimius, the Pnimius of Atzmas Neshama, that we have to take with it, the innermost dimension and the essence of the soul, Shehikashura Pnimius, that's connected to the essence of Hashem himself. We have to take that essence of Hashem himself and lock it into and permeate it with our everyday mundane affairs. And that's the idea of the spiritual idea of Yankov Halach Ladake, taking all the spiritual endeavors and all the spiritual achievements that we've had in the month of Tishrei, and then taking that and influencing the rest of the year with that. So we bring down and we draw down the essence of Hashem, the infinite essence, the Atzmas Ein Sof, the infinite essence of God, and bring it down into the world. And we are now completing the last paragraph, and we keep Shazeh Bo Simchas Torah. And since we're going from Simchas Torah, Shasimcha, and that we have the joy. So this maamer was said on the day immediately after Simchas Torah. So since we're coming, and the Rebbe is saying we're coming from the joy of Simchas Torah, and we know that Simcha, that joy, Poret says, Kol Hagdorim, breaks all boundaries. Joy transcends any limitation and breaks constraints. Through joy and through happiness, a person can break through different constraints that he has. Harizeh Peretz Mavatal. This can nullify and break through any constraints that a person has in his inner state of exile. Now, what is the inner state of exile? The goal is Pshuta, his inner state of exile. That is where he's not allowing his most deepest part of himself to reveal itself. That's what's in exile. His neshama is in exile because it's not taking over all of his spiritual essence. But on Yom Kippur and the days that we expressed before, Rosh Hashona, Yom Kippur, and Succos, we see that being revealed. So we need to take that spirituality that's now been expressed by the joy of Simchas Torah and move it out for the rest of the year. And then, by Zeikin, we will merit Shabakar of Mamish, that very soon, we will achieve the fulfillment of that verse that we said, may our eyes behold your return to Zion in mercy. That prayer that we say, and that will be fulfilled, the Geula Amitis, in a true manner, b'shleima, and a complete manner, via our Al Yidei Mashiach Tzidkenu, via our righteous Mashiach. Yoba Yalichenu Kemius Latzena, may he come and lead us upright to our land speedily, quickly, B'Yameinu, in our days, Mamish, or V'yivna Beis HaMikdash Mem came, and he'll build a Beis HaMikdash in its stead, V'yakabes Nimchei Yisrael, and he'll bring all the dispersed back from Israel. I want to tell you a small story just before we end off. There's a famous story about a man who came to a previous Rebbe and and he had come because he was being told that his child, by the doctors, that his child was in a very bad medical state, in a very bad health state, and that it didn't have long to live. And he rushed from wherever he lived, and he traveled by wagon to the Rebbe, and he was totally fallen down from himself, and he felt that he had no hope. But he had to go to the Rebbe to get a blessing, and he wrote a note to the Rebbe. He gave it to the Rebbe. He gave his note to the Rebbe. The Rebbe didn't look at it, and it appeared to the Chassid and the Chassid understood that there was no hope, that the Rebbe knew what was the context of the letter and couldn't help him, and he was totally fallen and down himself. Then he didn't know what to do. The Chassid didn't know what to do with himself, but he was there with the Rebbe anyway, so he stayed on. After the end of the Yom Kippur, he went to say his goodbyes to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe told him, "Don't worry, it'll be good. Don't worry, your child will be healthy." So the Chassid was in total bewilderment. He knew from the Rebbe's actions from beforehand that there wasn't a place for a bracha for himself, for his child. So how come? What had happened? But the Rebbe, before he can even ask the Rebbe asked him, "What did you do on Simchas Torah?" The Chassid replied, "I was so crestfallen. I was so down and below myself that I didn't know what to do with myself. I knew there was nothing, but I said to myself, since I'm here with the Rebbe, I've got to trust in God, and I'm anyway going to be joyous, and even despite my circumstances, I'm going to be joyous, and I'm going to dance in the festival. I'm going to be good." So, and I did. I washed my face. I wiped away my tears, and I joined in the dancing. I joined in the dancing. The Rebbe looked up to him and said to him, "And that's what broke the evil decree against your child, because you were willing to wipe away your tears and experience the simcha, experience the Yom Tov in a way of simcha. That broke the evil decree against your child, and you'll find your child healthy and well." And that's what happened. The Chassid went back and he found his child healthy and well. This is the power of simcha. This is the power of joy on specifically on Simchas Torah, that it can break all boundaries. So as the Rebbe says over here, it's possible through the capability of simcha that we will break the boundaries and bring Mashiach Tzidkenu. So we'll finish off the last line, and then the Mashiach will build the Beis Hamikdash. And then we will merit the completion, the finishing up of the transformation that it says in the verse that all the nations will transform to the pure tongue, and la'avda Shechem Echad, and all will serve him for the Shechem Echad, for the one purpose. Everyone will recognize one God and the Jewish role in that one God. And B'hoisel Hashem Amlucha, and then there will be sovereignty and there will be total kingship to Hashem. Okay, then that's the end of the maamer, and it's the most beautiful maamer, and there's much to ponder, much to think about this, and that allows us to jump into Simchas Torah with a full simcha and joy, as well as to continue the service post Simchas Torah and take this joy through the entire time. Okay, I wish everybody the simcha of Simchas Torah, and for the culmination of the Tishrei through Simchas Torah.